you are, so don't worry about it. All right, good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome to our January 11th, 2024 Airport Advisory Board meeting. We have, for the first time in a while, a full 7-member board, although only 5 of us are here, but really nice to see the 5 of you who are here. Kayla, would you mind calling the roll? Thank you.
Chairperson Harrison Earl.
Here.
Board member Talis Salvatian. Here. Board member Steve Schutt. Here. Board member Melinda Jordan. Here.
Thanks, Kayla. With a couple new members here, I'm going to give folks the opportunity to introduce themselves. If Linda, you've been here before, but I'm going to give you the chance to, and Dan as well. If you guys would like to say a few words and introduce yourselves. Whoever wants to start, please click the mic button, and I'll get you on. Melinda, go ahead.
Melinda Jordan, beginning my 8th year. I'm really proud of that. So got a year off and am back and glad to be here. I live in the pattern, basically under the airport on Airport Road, and am looking forward to moving some stuff forward this year and pulling off an air show.
We're glad to have you, Melinda.
I'm glad to be back.
Thank you. Welcome back. Dan, Mr. Meester.
Dan Meester, Longmont resident since 1982, I believe. My brain doesn't work that well. Been a pilot since 2001. Supposed to take my practical on 911. Obviously, that didn't work out too well.
That was supposed to be my first day of flight training.
There you go. Delighted to be a board member, and hopefully we can move a good agenda forward.
Well, thank you. We're really glad to have you with us. So thank you for joining us, and thanks for applying and being part of it.
Absolutely.
Moving down our agenda, you guys want to introduce you? You've been on, so if you want the chance, I'll let you. But I figure we know you a little bit. All right. I'm not forcing anything. All right.
It's actually recorded this time.
All right, so first on our agenda is election of officers. So in our first meeting every year, as you all know, we elect officers, we set our meeting date and time, and the official posting location. This is I think it's called our administrative meeting in our bylaws. So for election of officers, we have 2 roles, chair and vice chair. I currently serve as the chair. Malcolm Dean currently serves as the vice chair. Malcolm is not here tonight, but he has asked that we still renominate him and put him on the floor at least. But I'll start with chair. Are there any nominations? Would anyone like to? Mr. Salamatine.
I would like to nominate Mr. Harrison Earl as president and Miss Melinda as vice.
I'm going to do one at a time.
Okay.
So, can you start with chair? So you nominated.
Yes.
Is there a second for that nomination?
Second that.
So moved and seconded. Any other nominations? I'm okay with that. So all those in favor then of electing me as chair again, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all for the vote of confidence. Let's see. Alice, do you want to make a motion here as well?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Melinda as vice. When I first started on this board, Melinda was vice, and she did an amazing job, and would advocate her doing it again.
Steve? I'll second that. All right, so we have move and seconded for Melinda as the vice chair. I would also move that Malcolm Dean is the vice chair. He's served as the vice chair for the last year or so. I think he's done a great job at that. Melinda, you obviously know my feelings about you as well, but I'm going to put that nomination out there. Is there a second for that as well?
I'll second.
And Melinda seconds.
For Malcolm.
Okay. I would normally say like speech, but he's not here. So,
I'm good either way.
how about if anyone, just take a vote. All those who would like to have Melinda as vice chair. If once you raise hands here, so I can count easier. 2. Are you going to abstain, Melinda, or are you going to vote?
I have to, right?
You don't have to. I voted for myself. All right. And then all those in favor of Malcolm. Linda, you're the tiebreaker here. Or you don't have to vote, and we'll just keep discussing.
Yeah, I'll vote for myself. I've even got my
Okay.
sign still that's got my title, so you don't even have to make a new sign.
All right. Well, Melinda, thank you. Congratulations. You've been a wonderful vice chair before, and I know you'll continue to do so. And I know Malcolm will still be involved as well. So, wonderful.
Nothing against Malcolm.
Oh, God, no. We have good people on this board, which I'm really excited about. Select our meeting date and time location for 2024. Our current meeting date and time is the second Tuesday. I'm sorry. I wrote down Thursday, but it looks like Tuesday in my handwriting. So it's the second Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. here in the City Council chambers. Would anyone like to make a motion to have that same meeting time and date or propose something different? I would strongly encourage same. Mr. Shook,
I'll make a motion, we keep the date and time the same.
is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Turn myself. All right. Any other proposals for date and time? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to keep our meeting date and time a second Thursday of the month, 6 p.m. here in the City Council chambers. Everyone say aye? Aye.
I have a question.
Not everyone say aye. Question about the motion?
Well, yeah, so could we add it so if it inclement weather or situations that we could do virtually?
I'm not sure. I think we looked into this before, and there was something interesting about doing things for. Do you remember anything about this, Marcia? About the rules on doing things? Oh, okay. Yeah.
But the water board allows virtual participation, so it's possible.
Okay. Well, then, can I make the suggestion then, maybe amend the motion that's out there to just set meeting date and time and not the location tonight? Because I don't actually know that we have to set the location. It's not on the agenda. I can go try to find our bylaws quick, but I'd be good with just doing that if you guys would be.
I think that's a good idea, and then we could address that issue during our session this year and see if we can potentially get that added.
Well, that would also get a lot more people to show up. If someone's traveling or something, allow them to participate. Or if there's, if it's a pouring rain or snowing or something.
Can I get sorry, just to keep us on Robert's rules, can I get a second for my amendment and then we can keep the discussion going? Second, thank you. Vice Chair Jordan.
The issue is we can't do hybrid anymore, was my understanding. So we're either in person or online, but we can't do a combination. We did do it a few times, because I think we brought you in hybrid, Marcia, but that was my recollection, is that they don't want us to, like some of us would be here and some would pipe in. And it's either all or nothing is kind of the call. And then I think the notice, because the notice is for here, getting the notice out. But if we can have that option.
So notice is going to be a separate item here. So I'm going to hold that for
Yeah.
just a second. I looked up our bylaws here, and this was our 2022 bylaw revision. What it says in the bylaws is regular airport advisory board meetings will be held on the second Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. in the Civic Center, City Council chambers, unless agreed upon by a majority of the board to hold the meeting at another public venue or through remote attendance. Remote attendance at meetings of the board shall be governed by the city's electronic participation policy as amended from time to time. So without looking at that policy, I don't know what it, Marcia, do you?
Probably don't have a bylaw change. That sounds like you don't.
Yeah,
Other boards have needed bylaw changes, but all boards have different bylaws.
fair.
I believe we accepted that bylaw last year, or 2 years ago,
Correct.
probably.
Yes,
When
we
we
voted
came
on
out
it,
of-
and my signature on here is March 14th, 2022.
So I'm confused. Do we have a hybrid ability or not?
We have not done real hybrids. I'm a little unclear as to whether we have the ability to in the city or not.
I don't see a technical limitation.
There's not a technical limitation because the city council regularly brings in both council members who are out of town, as hybrids, and they bring in like developers that need to testify and stuff like that. So the ability to do a hybrid and put them up on that screen exists.
It looks like as long as we stick to the city's rules on it, that we should be good.
Yeah, there was a time 18 months ago when I was in New York, there was a problem with doing hybrid at that time, I think, because, I don't know, there was some technical problem then, but we've gotten new equipment since then. So you might wanna check with, Dallas, city employee Dallas, I don't remember his last name.
Well, Levi, can we follow up on this for next month? I don't think that can stop us from date and time and our posting locations.
It doesn't sound like that nothing's holding us up right now. It kind of sounds like we're already technically allowed to it as long as the board agrees to do it. I think
Yeah.
the kind of last thing to do is just look through those city regulations and make sure there's nothing that's restricting us on that end. And then we could pretty much show you why. And either way, as Marcia mentioned, there's nothing we can really do much about it tonight, and we would have to
No.
address it at future meetings anyway.
Yeah, understood. And I mean, if we needed to adjust bylaws or something, we can certainly bring that up.
Thanks for looking it up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I've kind of forgotten about that issue that we've had since luckily we've been able to be face to face for a while. All right, so we have, I'm going to bring us back. We have a motion on the floor to approve second Thursday, 6 p.m. with no location. Comments? Anything else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Last is, last on the admin side, select official posting location for board agendas. I looked back at last January, we determined that our primary posting location is the city's online agenda management portal. That's our legal posting location. We have a secondary, not required, but encouraged location of the Civic Center Bulletin Board and a secondary requested location at the airport to be posted as well. But the only one that is official was the agenda management portal online. Thoughts on that? Anyone want to make a motion on that?
There should be one at the airport, right?
I don't think there is one at the airport.
What I've been doing to kind of help with that is every time I do the monthly update, I've been putting it on the updates.
We had this discussion with the city attorneys. I don't remember. It might have been a couple of years back. And the official posting location, they strongly wanted it to be the website for consistency and ease of access for everybody. And what our compromise was is that we recommended that the city also posted it at the airport, that the notice is out there, but it is not a legally binding. They don't have to do that for a legal meeting to be, for this meeting to be real.
I think part of the past discussion was that that's not technically our posted area, so we don't control it, was something that came up.
Yeah.
Propose that we stick with the city's recommendation for posting on the website.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're on to our first public invited to be heard. It's a big audience tonight. All right, seeing no one to speak, I'll close the first public invited to be heard and ask for approval of the December 2023 minutes. Does anyone have any revisions, anything they noted in the minutes that we need to address? I know I normally do, but I don't have any this time, or I didn't read it carefully enough. All right. Motion to approve that, unless we have any changes. Fine, I'll move to approve the December 2023 minutes. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving December 2023 minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Levi Brown, updates from the airport manager.
All right, airport updates. I got a pretty good list here. Hopefully I don't forget anything too major. I'll kind of go through this list one at a time, and I'll pause kind of at the end of each item just to see if there's any questions at that moment, and then continue through the list. First thing I got on here is just an update. The new airport truck, which we required some months back, this summer is finally on site. It took a little bit of time sitting in the city shop. And I think most of the time is that they're sitting waiting on their guy that does the alignment on it. But it's finally on site. Super happy for that. Finally got something that's very usable for the airport, with the truck, with the plow, with the toolbox, at 2013, and it cost the airport a grand total, I think, of $4,000 for everything. So that's pretty killer. You're not going to beat that pretty much anywhere. There's some charity on the part of the state and DIA for that one. So I'm very happy. I'm very grateful to have that on site. Any questions about that? Next thing I got, we did a midwinter big prairie dog mitigation push. Just kind of trying to hit things, get a head start prior to the spring coming out here. I got a crew, about 6-7 guys from Public Works. We got out there on a day and we walked the whole airport back and forth, marked and flagged every prairie dog hole we could find. And then the city wildlife crew came out and treated. So here's knock on wood that we got a good winter push on things to help control things. Still kind of the word from the wildlife management crew on the field is they think that we're on top of things and we got good control on, stopping things from getting out of hand in the future, which is super, that's great for me. It becomes not a lot of work, not a lot of headache, and not a big budget item if we keep on top of things. So that sounds good. Any question on prairie dogs? So yes, knock on wood, that's going well.
Levi, did you need a contractor for that, or was that?
So it turns out,
staff?
so we were talking about potentially making a budget item for it, about doing, and it would still probably be good to have some budget money put aside from it. But at this point, I don't know if we necessarily need to separate that up from our normal maintenance, because it's looking like we're keeping a good handle on it. We were talking about getting a contractor potentially on staff, but the city's team continues to feel confident that it's something that they can stay on top of. And it certainly appears that way from the observations I've been doing. So far, that's what we're running at. If things, we'll see that the big test, of course, is this spring when they start having the pups and things, people, prairie dogs start migrating, and we kind of see what happens from there.
Got it.
Let's see. A couple big infrastructure projects, if you will, or start of infrastructure projects going on and around the airport. There's major electric being run along the Roger Road line, kind of on Amgem's property, heading from east to west on the south side of the airport. I just had a meeting with the city's electric coordinator yesterday. He assured us that there's lots of tap-in points on that new main line they're running, so that's good for us. Now when we have people thinking about developing, there's a main tap-in for 3-phase, any kind of electricity they need. I also had a conversation and a meeting with our airport engineers just to ensure that getting that electric on the airfield itself wouldn't cause any issues, down to and including if we have to bore under the runway. They have assured us that that would be a simple matter that we wouldn't have to worry too much about as far as FAA regulation or anything like that goes. So touching base on all that with them, everybody kind of seems on the same page, and that's great. They're digging on that now. They're running all that conduit now. So hopefully for the south side, for any need the airport would want, we're good. One thing did come up, and of course it's kind of an unknown entity about the future of aviation. electric aviation in general, and certainly car charging and stuff like that. We had that conversation. It's really hard to get an exact idea of what that's going to look like in the future and what the demand will be, but we did have the conversation about preparing and make sure that hopefully we have the conduit space to at least accommodate that in the future too. On top, I'll lump these two items together.
I do have a question on that one.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Salamantine.
Thanks. Yeah, just follow up with exactly what you just said. I clicked the button before you had said that last couple sentences.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's a concern I have, is making sure that the airport has the ability to do energy storage. That's one of the big things for, being carbon neutral by 2030, is that we need, storage capacity, and the airport might be a good place for that, especially if electrification of airplanes and whatnot. So I would just ask that, when you guys are looking at building electrical infrastructure, that it's, as robust as, potentially needed.
Yeah, and of course, we're kind of on the dawn of the major use electrical recharging vehicles, certainly now, and then hopefully in the near future, and it certainly does seem that way, electric charging aircraft, but that's definitely be a discussion that's had with the engineering when that actually comes down to it. For this project, at least now we've got the conduit going to the airport to get us that electricity. So, the other one I was going to loop in with that was we're also getting a drainage review of the airport master drainage plan on the south side of the airport. The intent of that being to determine whether or not there's a major project that we need to do as the city to potentially help with that drainage on the south end of the airport. We've had several people come and ask about developing on the south side of the airport, and it kind of seemed to be the sticking point that scares them off is the drainage that's the city asks for them to do on that south side. After talking with the city engineers, they're not even 100% sure what drainage now that would actually need, so we're doing a review of the airport drainage master plan to determine what the exact need would be. I asked them to give us really good deliverables on that, step it out, like if, we build how many square feet of hangars means what upgrades we need. I asked them to break it down on the recommendation on whether we do all that drainage work now or we do it in stages or however they want us to do. So we're currently in the middle of kind of hashing out a scope of work, if you will, for that, for the south side of the airport. That should be very close to being done. Hopefully we'll have some stuff moving on that this spring. Any questions on that? That's been coming for a while. We've been talking about that for a bit now. I do have just a really quick note on the air show. Meeting will be on the 20th at the airport. What was the time again? 9 a.m. 20th at the airport. So that'll be kind of a post-holidays relaunch of that. So hopefully we can hit the ground running and make sure we set a really good agenda for the future meetings and a timeline and stuff like that to move forward on that. Of course, I'm sure Melinda will talk about this later, but any questions on air show stuff at the moment? Good? All right. Projects on the airfield. A little bit of switch up on what's going on. So this year we're still really hoping to get the wildlife fence completed finally. As many of you know, we've had a wildlife fence kind of going around the airport for a long time now with some very large openings in it that don't stop wildlife. So that is still on the plate to get completed this year. Originally we had another pavement rehab for the ramp, or more appropriately for the apron this year on the airfield. We're now looking at potentially pushing that back a year for cost-saving reasons. Because we also need to do, rehab on that asphalt taxiway connector that goes on the northeast side of the airport that loops around that comes into runway 29. And it was determined that if we were going to do that in 2025, and we're going to do this rehab in 2024, and we determined that if we did those projects together, we could potentially save quite a bit of money. So we've decided to reassess, start working on doing those projects at the same time and seeing if we can get them bid out at the same time to save some money. So that's where that's sitting at the moment. Any question on engineering projects at the moment?
Levi, for the pavement projects, delaying the apron.
Yeah.
Is that grant funded? Is there any grant impact to doing that?
And that's the question I had. And right now it's looking like there shouldn't be any grant impact at all.
Okay. Money just carries forward.
Yep. So, and we're using the oldest money first with the wildlife fence and stuff like that.
Got
so we should be good.
Yeah, I'm all for saving money. That would just be my concern,
Yeah,
is losing something in the process.
that was actually something that we were going full on board on just doing that, and the FAA actually came to us and said, "Hey, you got this other project coming. Let's talk about what you could potentially
Okay.
do one way or there." So I said, "So yeah, everyone, FAA, the engineers, kind of be on the same page. It's like it looks like we could save some money doing it that way." Any other project questions? Okay. What else? As we talked about the last meeting, there was some leasing billing corrections that went out. For the most part, that's going over pretty well. I've had probably 5 or 6 phone calls asking me to explain out all of the math and stuff like that, and I've done that. Done a couple meetings with people and stuff like that, kind of explaining out the math and stuff like that. So that's all gone pretty well. It was and to recap that from the last meeting we had, there was essentially a spreadsheet calculation error on the spreadsheet that we had been using, that we caught during an in-depth audit of the spreadsheet. So that was all corrected. Moving forward, now we have, knock on wood, a very, very correct master spreadsheet plan with all the correct formulas and algorithms moving forward. Alrighty, any question on that? Moment? Okay. That's the big things. I did have one other quick item just to kind of loop everybody in on information-wise. We did do a violation on a hangar on the 2 Victor 2 Condo Association. Those are the hangars on the south side of the airport. A hangar door busted open in the wind, and that particular hangar was filled with what appeared, kind of looked like a swap meet from floor to ceiling. Clothing, tools, stray wood, stuff like that. So we did send out a violation letter for that particular hangar. 2 Victor 2, working with Mr. Manley and 2 Victor 2 over that. He's very responsive to it. He is in communication with the sublease of that hangar, and they are actively working on getting that corrected. That is something that I'm trying to be a little more on top of, and I've spoken about before in past meetings, and as we get into it, being very attentive to the airport rules and regulations and making sure that we're trying to hold people to those.
So, Levi, on that topic, I know, you and I have had this conversation before. You've put this in a number of your updates to kind of give people, a gentle reminder this is coming.
Yeah.
Is this the first violation?
This is the first violation that we've done. Something else that I would really like to do, and again, it seems to be one of those things that it's dependent on multiple forces in the city world here, is do hangar inspections. Probably when that comes to fruition will be along with fire inspections. And I want to be careful not to make it seem like I'm, bootstrapping off the fire department and sneaking at the same time. But in the same respect, the fire department very, very much wants to do hangar inspections also, and it just makes sense to do hangar inspections and fire inspections at the same time and not double repeat everybody.
Yeah.
Go do hangar inspections, and then 5 months later they come out and do fire inspections on everything.
Mr. Salamatina.
What rules are you most concerned about people violating?
Mostly the safety issue kind of stuff, and actually this violation, from a legal standpoint on the city, would probably be pursued a little bit more heavily by the fire department at first. There's things, like open barrel drums of crude, oil in the hangar and stuff like that. So if anything, this were to go to legal, it would probably go through that venue first. But certainly safety, stuff like that. And, from a practical standpoint, we do have a very real shortage of hangar space on the Front Range. Our rules and regulations very clearly say that, hey, this needs to be for aeronautical use. And from a responsibility to our airport and to the flying community in general, we should probably be enforcing those rules. Okay. Anything else on that one?
Vice Chair Jordan.
I had a question about, back with the prairie dogs that occurred to me. I was over there the other night, and the rabbits. I've never had a prairie dog encounter or a rabbit. I did hit a bat. Took that out with my wing strut, but I've never had wildlife on the, if I did, I just hit it. But the rabbits are everywhere.
Rabbits are bad.
So
Yeah.
what do we do about that?
Rabbits are harder.
Yeah, obviously.
They don't, it's harder to track them. Rabbits usually, They live under cars, they live in bushes, they make little nests and stuff like that. And that's one of the trade-offs of having, different kinds of mitigation. You mitigate all the prairie dogs out, and then it makes room for all the rabbits and stuff like that to move in. The rabbits are a lot worse this year, and so are the mice. The mice are a whole lot worse this year. So that has caused issues with the gates. Now, they've made nests in the gate wiring harnesses. They've had to replace wiring harnesses on the gates and stuff like that. So we had to, I went out and got some professional mouse control bait stations, and we had to install those in all the gates and stuff like that too.
Wow, okay,
Yep.
interesting. Yeah, because the rabbits, they aren't, I guess the prairie dogs, because they're digging up the dirt,
They're causing collision hazards in the runway
Yeah,
safety area.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Because the bunnies, they don't, they live under bushes and things like
Yeah,
that.
and they're usually, not that they're small, but they're also a little less hefty than some of
Yeah.
those prairie dogs.
They're
So I'm not
squishier.
as worried about collision hazards
Okay.
with them.
Just
yeah.
occurred to me, because, yeah, I saw a ton of them the other night, but they were over, I had pulled in over at the FBO, and they
Yeah.
were over in the first hangars over there, where you always see them under those cars.
Yeah, to add a quick little interesting story, back when I was flying professionally, I remember flying into La Junta and doing a low pass at night over it, and the runway moving. I thought, what's going on? And it was a cold night, and and that black asphalt had sucked up all the rabbits in the whole area had decided to go sit out on the asphalt for as long as they could. But anyway, so there are airports to draw rabbits for sure, open spaces, warm spots to sit and stuff like that. They love it.
Mr. Meester.
While we're on the subject of wildlife, has there been any complaints or concerns expressed about the number of geese that are surrounding the airport now?
So I've only had one complaint this year on geese, and essentially it was they'd landed in a field over there, and we went over and scared it off. But apart from that, I haven't had any reports or complaints about geese.
If it needs to be remediated, what's the mechanism for that?
From what the city will probably allow us to do, and the conversations I've had is noise, and get some bang guns out there and stuff like that, and do it. Yeah, which and honestly, since they drained the swoop pond, from my observation, it hasn't been awful. Yeah, we'll get some land, but I haven't seen any living on the airport certainly, or nesting for long periods of time. So that's really good.
They have been infesting the final path on 2-9.
On 2-9.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And that's just I think we're looking at stuff that's really not on airport.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of the issues that we're looking at right now, though. So it's something to keep an eye on, and we do have assessments from the wild. In fact, I'm meeting with the new wildlife representative at the CAOA conference on the 23rd, and I'll have that conversation again when they're going to come out and do their inspections again, stuff like that.
Vice Chair Jordan.
Sorry about that. How is that managed with the noise then? My office, I back up to a golf course, and I get startled during the day when they're out there making, shooting something that sounds like fireworks to get them to leave. And so would you do that, or would that be something?
In the past, I have, honestly, since I've been here, I think I've used that noisemaker twice.
Okay.
So it's nothing that we've had to use too terribly much. If we were to get to a point where we're using it, weekly or daily, there would certainly, I'm sure, be a conversation at that point. But at this point in time,
But
the
you-
rounds draw more dust than anything else. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you've got the ability, you've got the tools to do it. And okay, sweet.
yeah, from a state and federal standpoint, we're allowed to mitigate however we want. From a city standpoint, we'd probably be restricted to using noisemakers.
Levi, other update question that you didn't cover that I'm not sure how much you can say, but I'd love an FBO update to the extent you can.
A quick FBO update. From certainly, it seems that Fugoid is no longer pursuing purchasing the FBO on the field. There's some tension currently in discussion between us and the current owner. He is kind of blaming the city for blocking stuff. We have come back to him and reiterated and resent our communications to him saying, look, here's what the communication we sent to you saying, come engage with us, talk with us, have the conversation, and with no response. Additional update on, there's a gentleman, I think I covered this at the last meeting too, who was wanting to sublease the F1A hangar, which is the hangar which my office is in, and put a helicopter school in. I talked with him right before the holidays. I've sent him a couple emails since. I haven't heard anything back. I don't know if he's still out of the loop, still coming back in, or if perhaps the urgency or his interest in that has waned some. I did get essentially the approval for that sublease is all queued up. All I need from him is essentially a letter from him explaining what insurance they'll have to cover it, and we're good to go. It's all queued up, and city attorneys to shoot it off for Harold for approval, if he is indeed still pursuing that.
Great. Any questions from Levi on updates before we move on to information items? Vice Chair Jordan?
I'm not sure if it's an update. The LOPA was handling the hangar tax situation,
Oh,
and
okay.
they had sent out some updates, and I'd asked, was there anything that the board could do?
Mm-hmm.
And you reminded me that the city has referred it to the county.
Yes,
And-
oh yes, that's right. We had that
Yeah,
email conversation
yeah.
back and forth. I can give a
So-
quick update on that.
Okay.
Certainly, we'll loop that into airport update.
Okay.
Quick recap on the tax situation. As we all know, this last year with the expiration of some tax laws, that the county jumped up taxes on the airport quite a bit. From what I can tell, and I think we kind of covered this, and Steve and I have talked about this too. There was kind of a mixed response to what occurred out of that. This board wrote a letter to the city to ask us to address this. We did that. We had a meeting with Harold. During that meeting, the county, very politely essentially told us, hey, that's our business. Let us deal with it in our own method. So most of the hangar tenants, I'm sure, filed, have that reviewed. Depending on the ones that I've talked, it almost kind of feels like 50-50. Some say, hey, I had it reviewed and it's great, it's way better. Some people say, hey, I had a review and they did almost nothing for me. So I guess that's a kind of a good news, bad news kind of result that came out of that. I think there's still some, and again, being looped out of it, I'm not 100% on this. The last I checked into is talking to some of the hangar tenants. There were still a few steps more they could go through, potentially appealing it. But honestly, it's a county issue. So to get anything really moving on it, it would have to be an appeal not to the city here, but to the county of Boulder in general.
Question is, can the airport board, we don't have any strength past,
I guess,
past the city, do we?
That's an excellent question. And I would throw that to Harrison and the rest of you certainly, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to not make a recommendation to the bully. It never hurts to, I guess, speak up. But it is definitely in the county's purview and not the city's. And to the city's credit, not that we give them credit for anything, but they made the effort. They went out there and they insisted on having a meeting, and we sat down in a meeting, and at least the city did make an effort to get in front of them about this.
Yeah, we're an advisory board to the city. We have certainly the ability to advise the city. I don't think there's anything that stops us from writing a letter, but we have no power, and frankly, we don't have a direct interest in that since they're privately leased. So I don't know. I struggle a little bit with what our role is in that. Mr. Shook.
I think it's at another level now. Nothing really happened on the second go-around of appeals. And so now it is up to each individual to file a claim, or they should have already filed a claim with the BAA, whatever that stands for. I can't remember at the moment.
The Better Business Bureau?
No, it's, I really can't remember. I don't know,
Okay.
the holidays and stuff. But I'm in, excuse me?
Oh.
You know, I don't know, Marcia. I can't. Yeah, I
Board
can't-
of
I can't-
Assessment Appeals.
Yeah,
There you go.
there you go.
Thank you, Google.
And each individual hangar tenant had the opportunity to go to that next level. Some did, some didn't. I did. And basically what that means is that I will go before the BAA and the assessor's office attorney. So the assessor's office has to have an attorney at each meeting. So if there's 50 individual meetings or more, the assessor's office is paying an attorney for all of that. So the bottom line is the assessor's office does not know what they're doing. One hangar could be $500. The one right next to it could be $5,000. It's absolutely crazy. And so they need to be, held to the fire, because in 2 more years, it's going to be the same thing. So if the hangar tenants don't do something now, then who knows what's going to happen in 2 years. So anyway, that's, and the Hangar Association has done a lot of work. Dave Kopp especially. Some people think he's harsh and stuff, but he knows what he's talking about with the tax deal. And so hopefully, it gets resolved. Or the county backs down, or whoever, the assessor's office backs down and says, okay, we'll leave it alone. You never know. If there's 100 people, they don't have a lot of money to waste on, that kind of attorney fees.
You're right, but ego.
Well, yeah, don't know. So we'll see. I'm going to go. I'm going to try.
Mr. Meester, did you want to weigh in on this as well?
Yeah, briefly. We've appealed it, so I'm the secretary for General Handlers Corporation. We lease Building 16. The appeal went, I believe, to the state. And I agree with Harrison that, the advisory board doesn't have a place in any of the appeals, because it's between the individual owners and the county in this particular case. But so I understand the escalation, that went to the state. It didn't go to the county. The more people, more individual owners that complain about the assessment, the more clout I think we'll have. So I'm happy, or I'm satisfied with the approach to the appeals that we're currently taking.
And the other thing too, the people who did not file, they have an opportunity to file an abatement now as of January 1. So we're hoping that a lot more people who said, whatever, it's not that much more, I hope they jump on board.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I would ask, you two are obviously very plugged in on this. Levi, you hear this as well. If there is a point where there is something that's appropriate for us to do at the city level, or encourage the city to engage on this, to please bring it up. I don't know what influence we have in this, or even getting ahead of the next cycle, but I just would encourage you guys, as you hear more, to kind of keep bringing this up so we can keep having the discussion.
Okay.
Well, the argument at this point has been that we're assessed as basically warehouses. Unfortunately, we don't own the ground that the buildings stand on. So the assessment is defective, in my personal opinion, based on that original assumption that we're a warehouse. When we don't own the infrastructure, we don't own the grounds.
I did want to suggest,
Marcia, can you hit the button?
oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
I forgot that we're being recorded. I wanted to suggest, I don't know, and you two probably do that have looked into it, but when it's with housing, it doesn't appeal. You get to choose what comparables you bring forward. And it may be different than what the assessor chose, and you can base a claim on that. And so it sounds like if some appellants were successful in getting a reduction and others were not, then I don't know who would do it, whether it's the board or LOPA or the Hangar Association or whatever, but disseminating the information about the successful appellants so that when people make their next appeal, they can choose low assessment comparables, then that might help. And so, it's an action that whoever the leaders are can take to get that coordinated, and that might help.
The issue becomes one of actually getting a hold of those comparables. I can't get a share value out of my own corporation. So GHC has not submitted all of the sales for hangars over the last 2 years. And to do that on an full airport basis, I think would be virtually impossible. So we can't get our hands on that information. That's something that's impeding these appeals.
So how many of the hangars are owned by individuals?
I couldn't tell you. I'd say Levi'd have a better idea.
Either individuals or entities, let's call them, homeowners associations, stuff like that. Essentially 100%. There's one city-owned building. And then there's multiple, 2 Victor 2 condo associations, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least some of those people would just be willing to share if they got a letter. I don't know.
Potentially.
Well, that was all I had to say.
Fair enough.
Vice Chair Jordan.
We have discussed in the past having people take responsibility for areas of interest that were on our hot list as we were going through all that. This would be really an appropriate item for you to report back or provide updates and take responsibility for that topic as long as the board remains interested in it. I just feel like the people on the airport expect us to represent them and advocate for them. And this one, I know there's a limit to what we can do, but to at least stay engaged, and since we have owners on the board who can keep us updated on what's going on. Just if nothing else, just to know what the ongoing situation is, because there is a lot of effort going into it that on the behalf of everybody on the field when they're challenging this. So it's a noble effort that NLOPA's put in countless hours and energy and a lot of frustration. So just whatever we can do to at least keep it out in the forefront and on the public record, I think, as our board. And then if you guys could take that task to report back to us and let us know.
I kind of would even take that broader. I agree with everything you said. But we had I like the hot list, kind of that topics that we were each interested in. We had raised that a year and a half ago maybe, and I'm not sure it went a whole lot of anywhere. So I would maybe encourage all the board members before next month, just put some thought into things that you would be particularly interested in following and kind of reporting back on, with the idea being, the ones you'd like to have the most advocacy role in and pushing us to, in our role as advising the city on what they should be doing. So we'll bring that up next month as an info item in a discussion, but I think it'd be good just to have everyone think about that. I'm going to move us along unless there's anything else on updates, and we've got 2 information items, annual report and Southside Development update. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about the annual report, but just kind of the general base of that. We're required to put an annual report together for the city council in the first half of the year per our bylaws. We've in the past had a board member or 2 put that together, spend time doing that, and then bring it to the board. And we've gone through an iteration or 2. I really just want to bring this up since it is January, and we often tend to let this lag until the last minute and then have issues getting it done in the first half of the year. So really just want to raise that issue and see if anyone's particularly interested in starting that effort. And we'll keep it on the agenda.
Yep, and I would echo the same thing. That's why we had it on this agenda, just to get it in front of people and start thinking about it now.
I mean, I was one of the ones last time around that was involved in that. I'm happy to do that as well, but would open it up if anyone else has an interest in that. Mr. Salamatine.
I would be more than willing to help you with that.
Great.
And just to give a quick reminder about that whole process, it's essentially we're doing essentially two reports. There's kind of a standard format one for the city that we're required to do, and pretty much all the boards are the same. And then there's the annual report that we kind of want to do as the airport that kind of shows what's actually going on out there and kind of puts an informational better face than just a boring document to the city council.
I think that's a really good reminder. So
Yeah.
the way we've done this in the past is there's been kind of a letter from the board just saying it's a chance for us to advocate and market the airport and what we're doing. There's the required report, and then we talk about what's been going on at the airport and what the people are doing on the airport, those kind of things. So we'll get that started. Southside development update.
I can give, I guess, a little quick. We really hit a lot of this already kind of in the information items when we talked about the electricity and the master drainage report. Those are kind of the steps that we're moving forward to get Southside development going down there. Those are the two big steps that were kind of in the way. Electricity, we can say, is not really in the way now. They're putting it in now. But that hydrology report on potentially putting a parcel for land up for request for proposals. It's a good time to give everybody a little bit of a reminder on how we would actually get new hangars built on the airfield. So since it's city land, it has to go out for a request for proposal. So we have to decide what land is going to be released. Then it has to go out there, advertise to the public as here's the chunk of land that the city wants to release. Please send us your proposals. And then the city, the Transportation Department, Public Works reviews those and kind of determines who's the best one. In the past, it's worked more in a practical sense. There's been someone that's wanted to build a hangar. They put it out for a request for proposal, and one person turns in a proposal, pretty much. I would foresee probably in the future it will be a little more competitive, just because of the nature of things that have kind of changed on the Front Range, how much interest has been shown in developing on the airfield. So I would imagine that anything we would in the near future put out for a request for proposal will probably have multiple people send in proposals on, and there will actually be some real decision making to be made at that point. Most of the land on the airfield is not ready right now for a proposal because we've been having the issues that we previously talked about, lack of infrastructure, stuff like that. Things that this airport has been dealing with before I got here, and as the sewer project came on, getting that sewer on the south end of the airport, getting the electricity over there, stuff like that. Now our current task is tackling the drainage so that it's developable on the south side of the airport too. There's potentially one parcel of land on the north side of the airport that could be developed just as you come into the airport, right there by the statue. There is a chunk of land which a hangar could be put on. There are some struggles with that one because the main water and sewer lines go through there, and anything has to have a 30-foot easement from those two lines, and those two lines are separated by quite a bit already. So you couldn't fully utilize that space, and it's been difficult in the past when people have approached me asking to get that, and I say, yeah, here's the main sewer lines. This is what you're restricting, and people tend to back off from that point. Having said that, there are a couple individuals that would probably put in proposals on that, and that's something that I have on my list to talk with city management, my boss Phil, and then Joni, city manager, if they potentially are interested in just releasing that parcel of land as a kickoff request for proposal. To put that one out there first, we know it drains mostly, so we don't have to worry so much about getting the drainage report back on it, and then have something actually released out there for hangar development. So that's kind of on the horizon for potentially being the next spot of land that's opened up.
Mr. Salamatine.
In terms of development, I've had the opportunity to tour other airports in the area, namely the Greeley one. They have a very nice business center where meetings can be taking place, and there's also other amenities there, such as a very nice restaurant. I would ask that those types of things are prioritized to help build the overall value of the airport rather than just hangars.
Yeah, and that's the conversation that's had, and that's kind of a separate conversation. And that would be getting a little bit deeper into. We talked before about an FBO update. So now we're starting to talk about not necessarily the future of individuals developing on the airfield, but we're thinking about the individuals, what we as the city want to develop on the airfield. So those are kind of two different subjects. I've long been an advocate of this is the face of Longmont. Things should be nice. The city seems to be thinking the same way. We just went through a good project, nice firehouses in the city, stuff like that. I think we should be addressing kind of the airport in a similar mindset. Getting the facilities we need, having a good face out there. It is the point. A lot of people, it's the first thing they see when they come to Longmont. A lot of people that come here for meetings that hop off their net jets and their planes and stuff like that. So it is important. That will certainly be a conversation for this board moving forward. Kind of what the board recommends to the city, moving with those facilities and stuff like that. It's coming. The question is in how quickly and in what, how will it come to fruition and what will actually occur.
Levi, when you and I were talking about this last week, Southside Development, you had reminded me, and I'd forgotten about this, that there is a Southside Development plan or study
Yes.
that's out on the airport's website. It's not terribly recent.
No, it's not so recent, and it really wasn't just a kind of an exercise, if you will. It's not an official document in any kind of planning capacity, but it's an excellent document just for wrapping your head around to getting a good idea of some of the basic things that you would want to do or think about when you're developing that area down there. It's got a couple maps with a potential layouts for how the land could be developed and stuff like that, which are logical. And certainly better than the maps that were originally laid out in the master plan. It's a good document. If you guys haven't skimmed through that, I would highly recommend just checking it out and kind of looking through it.
Yeah, I mean, I took a look through it after the discussion. Recognize it's old and the cost values are out of whack.
Yes.
But I mean, even just looking at the maps, and it gave ideas, and it kind of it's hard to otherwise look at a map and understand how you would use the space and just how much space there is. And I really liked, just you look at that layout and you see how many hangars where you could put different things, and it's a good thought exercise.
Gives you an excellent idea of the scale and kind of the if you will,
exactly.
the capabilities of that piece of land.
Yeah, whether you do anything related to what's in the study or not, it's just it's really interesting. And I think as I'm hoping the Southside Development's going to be a big topic this year, I really am excited to see the drainage study.
Yes.
Because I'd like to push the city to make those infrastructure improvements so we can get these RFPs out. So I would just encourage folks to be aware of what's out there so that we can try to move that forward.
Right.
Any other thoughts, comments on Southside Development update for Levi? We have no action items then for tonight. I will open up our final public invited to be heard. Seeing no one, I will close our final public invited to be heard, and we'll move on to board, city council, and or staff comments. So if anyone would like to ask any comments, Melinda, perhaps an air show update, anything else we haven't discussed that anyone would like to bring up, as well as ideas for future agenda items. I'll open the floor. Vice Chair Jordan.
Thank you. Of all the pieces of paper I brought in, I did not bring in my whole list of everything going on with the air show, which you wouldn't want to be bothered with anybody. But I can't even, I'm like drawing blanks. But all the processes are underway. I had filed the UOPP with the city, but they're changing the portal. I talked to Michelle today. I won't be able to reapply until April probably. But we're on the books. We're fine on time on that. It worries me, but we have a lot of meetings we still have to finish that document. I talked to Parks and Rec about some rental items and all the bits and pieces. I got lists of things that have been accomplished, but all that to say we're moving along well. We have some good questions. We have our meeting the 20th to really rally the troops, and then now we're down to task lists and people reporting in, either it's a go or it's a no-go, and that we keep moving at this point. The interesting development today was that we could potentially apply for a special permit, a fee waiver for our city services that we need. Excuse me, I developed a cough this afternoon. That would be sanitation, water, the city services that we have to use. And I don't think we've done it before, but we do have a nonprofit for the airport, Friends of Vance Brand. And Dale Van Zant is the president of that. I'm the secretary treasurer. And Dale is coming on to the air show team. So he had said no to me for several years and then finally said yes. So I'm going to explore that to see if we can, if we qualify and if we can get a fee waiver for some of the city services. And then everybody else, we're locking in the date. There have been everything's just getting better and better of people offering to check for flyovers and the thing we are competing with that day now is the art walk. So that is the same day, so I can't get my band shell that I wanted because it's going to be at art walk. But otherwise, there's no other air show competition, and if you haven't bought your tickets for the Colorado Springs show, you should. My bigger question to Levi too was, did we want to use our air show as a fundraising opportunity, which we did in the past, and I think we kind of agree that we don't want to take that much on, and that I can then kind of job out the pancake breakfast, the beer garden, the food trucks, and we're not trying to make money on that, which is a relief. So we've got a great team. We continue to get people showing up and showing interest, and we're really ready to now we're just dialing it in at this point. And then the meeting on the 20th will be, Malcolm had requested to have the police there, but it's too soon. We don't need to take up their time. This meeting really needs to be the team. And we need to have separate meetings with the police for traffic and security. And I did reach out, Dale recommended reaching out to Recess Factory, which I've been doing quite a bit of. Have not gotten a response from them. I called today and left a message for David to see if they want to bid on any portion of it. So they did our security, our entrance at the diagonal taxiway, and then they do a fundraiser of their own as part of it, and then they did this security fencing, the snow fence. They did a lot of the heavy lifting, and I would love to get them to bid on it and see if we can pull off having them assist. And so that's still pending. So the air show is fully underway. Everybody knows, the city knows, our demonstration teams. I've got questions about the order of events, some things like that, but we're going to start really getting into brass tacks and deliverables with the January 20th meeting. And then I've been having one-on-ones with everybody as we've been going along with that. I was supposed to have had one with Silver Creek yesterday, and they had to cancel it, so that's happening after that 20th meeting. That's on the 24th. But the Innovation Center is in. Wings Over the Rockies is in with Discovery of Flight. So we've got a really robust program. So I have asked my intern to prepare a save the date social media graphic for us to get out and start just promoting the date and then some of the highlights. So she's working on that for me. That's on the air show. The items that I wanted to bring up for the board to keep on the top part of the agenda is the avigation easements. We talked about that a couple meetings ago, and along with avigation easements, the signage. And I joined the board January 2016, and we were talking about signage then, and it has never gotten off the ground. And that is the airport influence zone signs on the streets, and with the additional developments, I think it's a small thing to do that can at least say, we tried to tell you, when people plead. And I think complaints are down. It'll be interesting to see that in the annual report. The helicopters are allowed, so we don't see complaints on helicopters much, because I feel that people find them to be purpose-driven, that they're not individuals going golfing or the things that people get accused of with flying their planes. But with the increase in helicopter traffic, they're loud, they're noisy, and depending on where they're flying, we could see an uptick in complaints again. And those signs with new developments, people driving through there, I've always said, on a low ceiling day, if you're looking at a house, you have no idea what you're in for. And I think that's just a small expense. Whoever bears that, I don't know. But a small thing to do is to surround the airport with airport influence zones like Centennial did. And in light of the lawsuit now against Metro, just whatever we can do to try to, create some sort of a bubble around us and protect ourselves, because you saw, I'm sure they did file suit. So whatever we need to do as a board, and whoever would advise us on that, to try to at least really make it clear there's an airport there, and airplanes fly around airports. So I would like to see us put that up and not have that actually get accomplished. That would be really cool. I think that's it. That's a lot.
That is a lot, but thank you. I know we talked navigation easements last time or 2 months ago, and I think we're waiting for that to come back from city if we need to do anything with it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's kind of, I think, the last time we left it. We do, that's actually my first task when I got here. We've got some really good navigation easements written up. Right now, the way that the city's kind of been applying them is neighborhood by neighborhood. And to my kind of understanding of the process, to actually get a standard one set for a distance, we'd have to change some rules and code in the city, and Marcia might know more about this than I do. And we kind of reached out to the city to do that, and they essentially kind of came back and said, well, we don't have the capacity right now to do that. But that's something that is on everybody's radar, especially as, new developments start putting in applications and stuff like that. So, but that's certainly something that's a good thing to follow up on.
Councilmember Martin.
Thanks. Regarding navigation easements, the only one that I know of that's in effect is Mountain Brooks. But they're cooperative. If we don't have it on file, we can probably.
There's several different navigation easements that have kind of been trickled in over the years around some of the neighborhoods that are kind of ad hoc, and this person wrote this one, that person wrote that one. And this all kind of came when that lawsuit first started at BJC. So I and the city attorney's office, and we actually reached out to some out-of-state advisors, reviewed all that, and wrote some really good one up. And I had a conversation with the AOPA, why they didn't directly give insight on it. And I did have a conversation with them about that, and they were encouraging, yes, exactly what we were doing. So we do have something now that's kind of written up that we're hoping is a little more standard, if you will. Something which has been taken in the lessons of the past when it comes to BJC and stuff like that, moving forward. And from what's kind of been going on at the airport, I've been assured, particularly with the Modern West stuff that's been going on, that yes, they're using that as the model, and they're also requiring that anything that's rented in the future also has additional steps that go out to them and stuff like that. And again, this is a little bit of my ignorance with the process, and it isn't officially what's required. But I remember one of our last hangups was that to make it officially like city rules, regulations, when and where these were applied directly, but they have to be applied, would have to be a change within the city and kind of their procedures, if you will.
Do you know whether it's a charter requirement or just a statutory?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
That'll be important with respect to timing it for elections if it's a charter amendment.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'll follow back up on that one too to make sure we see where we're at. I mean, last time, yeah. But yeah, that's a good one to follow up on.
Any other comments? Board members? Councilmember Martin, Levi?
Should be good.
All right. Seeing none then, thank you all very much. We'll call our January 11th meeting adjourned. Have a good evening.